Hi, Pod Pals. This is Pat Fenner, podcast producer from Eagles Wing Services, and I decided to become a podcast coach because I work hard to help my clients grow their show and increase their influence, and I like helping them get their message from the mic to the masses. My favorite part of the certification program was really all the one-on-one time or one on small group time that Adam gave us. We went over it. We had a lot of practical application exercises that he then reviewed with us, and we got to review other people's too. So there was a lot of group learning and learning from each other. And Adam, of course, is pretty darn awesome.
Hey there, Pod Pals. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to give you a quick heads up that I'm opening up registration for my next podcast growth coach certification cohort. This certification program is ideal for any podcast managers or coaches that want to learn my proven podcast growth system and add a podcast growth service to their business platform. Our next certification cohort will launch in September of 2024, and you can get more info and apply to join with the link in the episode notes or head on over to www.podcastingbusiness.school. What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam. You are listening to Podcasting Business School, the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. This is a Pod Pals Zoom Party edition, and I do these once per month. If you guys are listening in, you listen to this episode, you're like, OMG, how do I get to be a part of that Pod Pals Zoom Party? I got to be there. All you got to do is go to my website, podcastingbusiness.school. There's like 3 buttons. Click on the one that says freebies, and then you'll see the Pod Pals Zoom Party button. Get on the calendar. Our next one will be in August, and I would love to have you there. I've invited several of my Pod Pals on here live with me, and we're doing something a little different. We're doing open podcasting and or business Q&A. So if you got questions about podcasting, you got questions about online business, we are going to openly discuss them as a group. I'll kick off, you fire a question, I'll answer it, open up for discussion. So, and then at the end, we'll do podcaster speed dating. So I'm going to kick it over to my pod pal, Shannon Russell. She's got the first question of the day. No pressure. It's kind of a big deal. Let's go. Start it off right.
Hi, Adam. So I was thinking about this. I know it's always fun to do some kind of a promo at the top of our episodes, and I'm wondering if asking people or actually just putting it out there to book a discovery call right off the bat at the top of an episode, if that is a good idea, or should we just kind of make that maybe a mid-roll promo and start off with something softer right off the top?
Well, okay. I love this topic. I love CTAs, calls to action. I love intros and outros. I feel like, to me, that's kind of one and the same thing, but I understand that in podcasting, that can mean a couple different things. But I believe this is the most underutilized part of being strategic with a podcast, especially as a service provider. If you've got programs, products, and services to sell, and you have the same intro and outro with a little jingle, do 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 do. Here comes podcasting business school. Da da da. Come on down. And like that's a waste of space in my personal opinion, in my humble opinion. And I like to mix it up. So the strategy that I obviously take, you guys can listen to my show. It's out there, and you're listening to it right now if you're on Apple or Spotify or wherever. And you notice that I use a specific call to action in my intro and my outro, and those are married. It's the same call to action. I like one call to action. So I don't have a theme song saying, "Welcome to Podcasting Business School." I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but I do know that people will go skip to my loo the second time that they've heard that, and they hear the same music. Oh, time to skip. So I like switching it up. I like doing different types of calls to action. I like making my listeners pump their brakes, go, oh, hold on, I got to check this out. So I love starting off my Tuesday episodes with a testimonial because it's a different voice than mine. People like pump my brakes. Let's see what's happening here. Then we'll go into a call to action for whatever it is that I am currently promoting. Right now, for this episode, I'm in promotion mode for my next round of my podcast growth coach certification program that launches in September. So that's what you're going to hear about in the intro. That's what you're going to hear about in the outro. That's what you're going to hear about with the testimonial. All right. Now, if you're not in promotion mode like that, my go-to call to action is discovery call. So that's the long road of getting back to what Shannon brought up here. Like if you're unsure, you can always go with a lead magnet. You could always go with anything free. I don't tend to push sales unless it's like a timed open cart, like there's a little bit of FOMO or something like, hey, you got 10 days or you got to apply by this certain date. So if you have like an online course or something like that, I've not seen a lot of success personally or with my clients with that. But let's talk. Let's get onto a discovery call. That kind of takes your listener from passive listener to active, but still free. So discovery call, free challenge, lead magnet, get them inside of a funnel. So we go from passive to active, but still free. And then we have a chance to move them down the pipeline a little bit and go, hey, let's add some value. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if we are a good fit. And if so, then let's go ahead and jump in. So I like the intro with a discovery call. Like I don't see any problem if it's free. I don't think people will be like, I'm offended by these free things that she's putting out there. Now I would switch it up and do what I say, not what I do in this sort of instance. I've got one discovery call intro and outro that I use, but sometimes I'll flip flop them and I'll make the outro the intro. I get kind of sneaky that way, just for a pattern disrupt. But you could have one with music in the background, one with no music in the background. I tend to notice that more people listen to my intros and outros that do not have music in the background because I think they're less skippable because it sounds like my podcast audio. You know, I don't have music playing in the background when I'm doing this right now, so they can't tell where to start and stop skipping. So they'll just listen to it. And we want people to listen to those things. So those are just a few ideas. I'm a big fan of pattern disrupts. So mix it up a little bit and let's see what happens. Does that help, Shannon? Feel good about that? All right. Excelente. We'll go to Raina next, and then we'll go to Heather Z. I see you up there, Heather.
Good. Hey, Adam. Hey, I've got a great question. It sort of piggybacks on Shannon. So a client of mine wants to get more reviews for their podcast. So they want to do some sort of like, kind of like giveaway, like, hey, this month, if you leave a review, you could win, this, da, 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 da. And I'm just not sure if that's a really great idea. Like, cause she also has a discovery call, like, and I know sometimes we're like, just do one, don't do both. So first of all, like, what are your thoughts on reviews? Are those really important in the end? And second, is it okay to have two CTAs, call to actions, or should she just do the discovery call?
Okay, great question. And it's not like this is one of those moments where I'm not like, I'm Supreme Podcaster Adam and I decree that this is the right thing to do. There's a lot of options here, but I think it is worth thinking about. I think that's the right strategies. Let's be strategic about this and not just do random things. What do ratings and reviews get us? Well, let's start with what they don't get us. It is fact that they do not boost the algorithm in any way, shape, or form. So if somebody writes, if we have 1 million ratings and reviews, that doesn't help us with our organic discoverability. What it is helping with is social proof. So when people do organically search our keywords, they pop up and they see 1 review versus 400 reviews. That's probably going to make a difference if they read a few. All right. So I don't think they're bad, but I do want to dispel the myth of, oh, you need to be doing these because that boosts you up in the rankings and gets you more downloads and more discoverable. That's been proven. That's like people that are smarter than me have confirmed that is not going to help. So I don't hate it for like, I think we get out of launch phase. I wouldn't do it during launch phase because the main CTA during launch phase is hit that follow button. I'm just all over. I want them to be addicted to my show. Hit the follow button, hit the follow button, hit the follow button. You could do a rating and review giveaway though during a launch period. I do like that. Hey, if you leave a rating and review, here's exactly what I would do. Pick your platform. Let's say Instagram. Go, okay, we're going to do a contest since we're kicking off. And you can really do this at any point in time. It doesn't have to be during launch week. You could just be like, hey, I really want to set a goal of getting to 100 ratings and reviews. In my mind, that's a nice little number to be at. So, okay, I'm going to do a giveaway, plan it out, make sure you do a call to action on the show, do some email marketing, do some social media marketing the week before, and go, all right, I need you to leave a rating review. I need you to screenshot it. And we all know to tell them, don't send it because you're not gonna be able to see it for 24 hours. And everybody's like, I swear I left the review, bro. So type it, screenshot it, then hit enter or send or whatever it is. Take the screenshot, share it on your Instagram story, tag me. You get entered to win a Starbucks gift card, an Amazon gift card, a free coaching session, a life-size autograph cutout of Adam, whatever. So surprisingly, the best giveaway I've ever done, most successful, was with my health podcast. And it was with a life-size cardboard cutout of my co-host, Danny Vega. And Danny's a really good-looking Cuban man. And so I think that had something to do with it. But like we were trying to give away like, free coaching and all, $500 Amazon gift card. Nobody did anything. Life-size cardboard cutout, Danny Vega. Here come, open the floodgates. So weird stuff works. Merch works really good with giveaways like that. But that, a little week-long push to do some ratings and reviews, kind of boost that up, because then you can start leveraging those. So as you start getting, and anybody that's a podcaster right now, here's a cool social media strategy. Go and screenshot your ratings and reviews and create an Instagram reel out of them and put it up on Instagram. Be like, look what everybody's saying about my show, or share it in your stories. Like it's cool social proof content that we got to get your relatives on board. Like, oh wow, look at Adam. People listen to Adam's show. It's not just his wife. Look at that. Look at that. But it is cool, social proof, and it's almost like a testimonial for your podcast. That's exactly what it is. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. The only issue I have is when people get confused and think I have to do that to grow my show. That's not necessarily true. So, I think if they're like in sales mode, promotion mode for something else, if they create a new lead magnet, let's not worry about ratings and reviews, but it's a nice filler. I would say a direct promotion is top priority. Making sure that people know that they can do discovery calls. That would be a secondary priority. And then you've got the filler stuff in there, and rating reviews is a great filler. So that makes sense. Is that helpful? All right. I want to shout out Raina also. She is a newly certified podcast growth coach. She's one of my 11 coaches that I've certified so far. Really psyched about it. And we're going to be collaborating on a lot of stuff. And she's got some great stuff. So be ready. Be ready for more Raina Rokiki. Awesome name also, Raina Rokiki. I mean, it's one of my favorite names to say. All right. Another one of my favorite names to say, Heather Zeitzwolf. Go ahead and let's tag you in and blast away with a question here.
Oh, thank you so much, Adam. So I'm starting a brand new podcast called The Savvy Frugal Vegan. I've been trying things out on YouTube just to kind of test the waters before I actually go live. I've been using Buzzsprout. I'm switching to Captivate for this one because I heard that you can have like more than one podcast under that umbrella of what you pay. So now this is kind of opening up doors because I'm thinking like, oh, I could have like these sub shows or whatever. So for the launch, I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can. Like 3, 5, how many should I have in the can? Should they be nice and short? Should it include a trailer? And then if I'm thinking about doing like a sub show, like a 30-day challenge, like how far in the future should I do that? Thoughts?
Yeah. So at launch, I'm a big fan of 4 episodes live at launch, a sampler platter. And I love separate topics and different types of episodes. The way I look at it, I'm like, we're going to work our butts off to promote that new show that first week, especially. I don't want to have one episode or just one trailer, and then somebody sees it and is like, not for me, because they're not coming back. I mean, how many times have we subscribed to a show and be like, that show that I hated, I'm going to go back and see if it's gotten any better. Like, we don't do that. So we don't want one strike and we're out. So I like 4. Let's give them 4 flavors, 4 different types of episodes, different topics, maybe a solo, get some interview back and forth. If you're a coach, do some coaching style episodes. Let's give them a sampler platter. So maybe they see the episode title of episode 3 and they're like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I'm in. Then you win them over and they go, I'm going to hit that follow button because I really can't miss any of these. I'm going to listen to them all. So that's my launch week protocol that I always recommend. And it helps when you launch a new show, kind of algorithmically. We're thinking about getting boosted up in like the Apple and Spotify rankings. If somebody newly finds my show, I want to give them some episodes to dig into and binge on. So that's 4 downloads instead of just 1. So we get 50 people and they download 4 episodes. That's way better than 50 people downloading 1 episode. And that's going to help boost us in the algorithm, which then that catapults us into the rankings. The rankings helps us get more our organic discoverability built up. So that's my basic strategy there. Then, doing your first promotion for a thing, so a 30-day challenge, a lead magnet, whatever. I tend, if you're, I mean, I think this is pretty standard whether you're a service provider or not. I like the first 8 to 10 episodes. The only call to action I'm talking about is hit that follow button. And I just focus on that. And it's like, it's hard to do that because like, I want you to follow me on Instagram. I want you on my email list. I want you to download my lead magnet. I want you to buy stuff from me. And I want to tell people all those things. But in my experience is like if we sit back, play the long game and just add value, be great, be educational, pull them into our educational content vortex. And Heather, my God, is the personality oozes from her brand. I mean, you can just tell that Heather is not a boring freaking person. Like she is very informative, high energy, and she's fun to be around. You pull them into your vortex for 8 to 10 episodes, play it cool. It's like dating, like play it cool and, make them come to you a little bit. And as soon as you start getting people going, hey, how do we work together? How do you getting those types of questions? Okay. Now let's start putting some stuff out there because people are hungry for it. So
And
I say eight to 10. Yeah,
and
go
how
ahead.
short should I make these in the beginning? Pretty short, like 7 to 12 minutes, 20 minutes. Is that too long, you think?
Are you going to be solo episodes?
So I do have some that are coaching that I've already recorded, and then some will be interviews. But I'm thinking like some could just be like a longer live, and I just do a shorter version for the podcast. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm thinking for interviews.
I mean, I think the perfect podcast episode length is however long it takes to deliver the episode, deliver the message. I don't want you like spinning your wheels going, and now I got to fill time for the next 20 minutes. Let's ramble
Yeah.
about. But solo episodes typically 5 to 20 minutes, pretty solid.
Okay.
I'm very consistent with that time frame.
Okay.
Coaching style episode, I like less than 30 because I feel like if you're spending more than 30 minutes with somebody, they should be paying you, is my personal take on it. And then, interviews, you can, do whatever you want. So one of the biggest roadblocks I see people that have a traditional interview-based show, and I try to talk, they're a service provider. I'm like, you need to be an expert on your own show. Let's start doing some solos. The biggest hang up is they feel like they have to, I do for an hour interview. My audience wants hour content. I can't talk for an hour solo episode. I'm like, just try a 10-minute solo episode and get back to me. And I've never had anybody be like, they hated it. They don't like hearing from just me. It's always, wow, I've got more feedback than ever. And that took me 10 minutes and I didn't have to go chase down a guest. I didn't have to get their email them 5 times for their headshot and all this other stuff that we have to do. So, getting them to kind of convert over to the dark side takes a little bit of an effort sometimes. But once they like, oh, these solo episodes, it's kind of nice. And I can record like 5 or 6 of these in the same time it's been taking me to do an interview. So, yeah, just say what you need to say, deliver it with energy and deliver that educational point that when you hit that record button, that was your objective and you're good to go. But I think, yeah, let's launch with 4. Let's get 8 to 10 out there and then let's start promoting stuff. And I think that's a great little grace period for you to just kind of whet the appetite of your audience out there. Sound cool?
Yes. Thank you so much. And it's so nice to see so many familiar faces. Okay. Thanks, Adam.
All right. Let's see here. Megan Shields. Tagging her in. Let's do it.
One second. Sorry, my dogs are in here, and then my husband just went to go get dog food, and they need to eat, and they're going to be really loud. It's like literally the perfect time. So anyway, sorry about that. So my question was about private podcasts. So I don't have a regular podcast yet because I don't have the bandwidth to do like a weekly scenario. But I want to leverage audio. So I created a private podcast and it's functioning as a lead magnet into my membership right now. And it's a few episodes. It's like less than 20 minutes, but it is truly private. And I'm wondering if I should switch it over to public to get some searchability. Cause I think you did that once with like a limited series. So anyway, I would love like some more organic, cause I'm running ads to it, obviously, cause that's what I do, but like, I would love if I could get some, organic stuff going too. So anyway, I don't know.
Yes.
Any thoughts on that?
Yes, lots. I have strong opinions on this. So,
Hey, I
um,
love strong opinions.
strong opinions. And I love Steve's comment, cue the leaf blower. I've had that happen before. And I know Steve's done a million episodes too, like leaf blowers, weed whackers in the background. I had one guy that had a margarita machine going in the background. Yes. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
So the dogs aren't barking. We're cool. All right, private podcast versus limited series podcast. So let's define each. A private podcast that Megan has is a few episodes. They're behind an email wall. She's using that as a lead magnet. The purpose is to build her list and bring people into her email world. So we have to market that as a lead magnet and get people to opt in to listen to the show. A limited series podcast, an example, you can look at my limited series. It's a 21 episode podcast called Podcast Monetization Tips for Online Coaches, Consultants, and Service Providers. So if you search podcast monetization tips on any podcast player app, you can find it. And that's a part of the magic. That's why I did, if the goal is to get people on your email list, here's what I did. I made mine public. It's 21 episodes. There's no new episodes. It's like an audio training. It's like an audio book, but I've got all those keywords in there. Podcast monetization tips for online coaches, consultants, and service providers. So I have people every single week finding that organically. And then I created a companion workbook. The first call to action you hear for the first 7 episodes is download the workbook, download the workbook, download the workbook. So they're getting on my email list because of the podcast. So if the ultimate goal is to get people to use it as a lead magnet, I like it out there as a free so people can actually discover it without me having to pay for ads, without having to market it at all. I launched it in August. I've had not just email subscribers, but hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a week have come in from that show, just from people finding it on Apple and Spotify without me marketing it at all. New clients. So they find the show, they search podcasting tips. Ooh, podcast monetization tips. Sounds cool. Binge listen. They download the workbook. They're on my email list. They're in my email funnel. I market a discovery call. We do business. And that thing has worked every single week since last August with no new episodes. So that's why I like a public limited series versus a private. And especially, and you have to do it a certain way. If the goal is let's build our email list, you have to have some sort of a workbook or a downloadable companion form or something that makes sense for your limited series podcast. That way they're like, oh, no brainer. All the homework I give a homework assignment in each episode of the show, and they have to have the workbook to work through the homework. So they got to do the download, and then they get, better results that way. So I like letting Apple and Spotify algorithm do all the work for me marketing wise to pull in. I hardly ever market this thing. Like I really need to be mentioning on my Instagram stories and stuff like that more often, but it just works so well. But it has to be named correctly, and all that organic discoverability has to be dialed in, or it won't work at all. So those are my thoughts. I don't think either one is a bad option, but I think especially from a client acquisition perspective and email list building perspective, having it out there in the public is going to be a little bit easier. It's going to happen a little more organically. So any thoughts on that, Megan?
Yeah. So like mine right now, yes, it's to grow an email list, but the point is like at the end of it, I'm moving them into my membership and giving them the opportunity to do like a $7 trial. So I'm wondering like how I would do that if I made it public, because do you think I should change it and restructure it to like, instead of it being that, just being a call to action to get on my email list and like download? I guess I wouldn't download private podcast because they're listening to it. So I guess like I guess I'd have to create something else. I don't know. What do you think?
So if you were to make it public, you mean?
Yeah.
What you have, I would not just make that public because it's not going to work. So like use that as a lead magnet, but I would look like if somebody's out there just starting and debating, should I do a limited series live podcast or should I do a private podcast? Like they're not going to fit into the other space. You got to kind of go into it thinking this is what I'm doing to make it work and function correctly. So like that limited series podcast is a complete funnel. You listen to it. Every testimonial has a purpose. Every episode, the episode order has a specific purpose. The topics have a certain purpose. Like the calls to action have a very specific purpose, and all works together.
So it should
So
be a separate thing if I went
yeah, I would
limited.
have a separate thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But it works really well for email list building and client acquisition. And like I said, I like letting Apple and Spotify do the work for me. And that's a lot better than me having to bust it out there and promote it myself. So,
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's why I was like, I want to leverage that in some way. So maybe I'll just recreate or do
yeah.
something different for the limited
And
series.
you've got something that's working and people like. So we take that and go, hey, and I've got a lot of rules about the the limit series podcast thing. Like I think it should be 18 to 25 episodes. I think that, I mean, 10 minutes or less. Like I've got a lot of rules that I know that work when you create that. So you and I have contact info. We can swap notes on that when you're ready to do it. All right.
Thank you.
Yes. Brenda, I know you had a thought about limited series podcast too. Let's tag that in and let's get your question out there.
Yeah. So my question was, I was thinking about doing a second podcast entirely. My current podcast is called Enthusiastically Self-Employed. It's business marketing and LinkedIn tips for solopreneurs, coaches, consultants. So I specialize in LinkedIn. And the other topic I want to do is for LinkedIn for job seekers. And I have enough content to do a whole podcast on that because I've got a lot of LinkedIn lives and things that I could pull from. But it feels a little bit overwhelming and daunting. So I'm warming up to your idea of doing a limited series. But my question is, if I do a limited series, can I later expand it to an ongoing podcast? Or is that like you should either pick the lane that you're in, I guess. Should I be a limited series or a full podcast, or can I pivot later?
Well, I think it's up to you. Like,
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do, but some different, ways that we can think about this. So let's say you launch a limited series and it just rips and people freaking love it. And you're like, maybe this needs to be my main show instead of my other show or whatever. Like I've had people do that before. They kind of use it as a tester and like, you know what, I'm going to dive into this. Then there's like, when I created podcast monetization tips, I'm like, this is a 21 episode show. This is an audio course. This has a start, middle, and an end. And it's a very specific purpose. It is a funnel and it operates as such. And I went and I built it that way. So, I think if you strategically go in and do it that way and it works, like if the ultimate goal of you podcasting is client acquisition, a limit series podcast funnel can work really well. But if you're like, if you're kind of taste testing, do I want to keep my old show? Do I like this new concept? Maybe I want to switch over and focus on that. Then it can work as that as well. It can be kind of like a little test ground, little appetizer. Let's try this out. See if we want to make this a full meal, then we can upgrade. So I think either way is fine.
It's really because it's serving two different audiences.
Yeah.
The job seekers don't care about being self-employed. The self-employed people don't care about job seekers. So
no doubt.
And I serve both, and I have probably more income coming in from the people that are self-employed than the job seekers, but I do still continue to serve that community. And I feel like I've got such a rich content library that I could pull from for that.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I were you, I would just really like, obviously you're my download growth club. We can, work on some ideas for like strategic naming to really pull in the organic discoverability, put a really sweet name on that thing, launch it with a bunch of your, I would have some new content that's not with your lives. So, a few little Brenda solo episodes, but let's just put it out there and let's see what kind of traction you get. I see this more as a taste test sort of a thing than a limited series funnel. Because you could always create another limited series funnel down the road. Like I will probably legit, because back to what Heather was saying, there's all these podcast platforms now that are like, you can have as many shows as you want or whatever, they don't make you pay per show. So I use Libsyn, but I also have Kajabi for my business, and I launched my limited series inside of Kajabi. It just counted as another product inside of Kajabi. I don't have to pay any extra. I was like, ooh, awesome. And I've got a private podcast for my Download Growth Club members inside of Kajabi as well. And it doesn't count. I don't have to pay extra. But I could launch limited series podcasts now, 1 or 2 per year, and they're all just funnels. It's like lead magnets. So I could do one about lead magnets for podcasters. I could do one about creating your first coaching offer. I could do anything that I want that directs towards one of my offers. I could do one that's download growth specific. So yeah, I think the limited series podcast will always be there. Just knowing you and kind of knowing the background, I think this would be more of a taste test podcast. Let's see if you like this, if you get an audience response. let's toss 5 to 10 episodes out there. Let's see if we get some traction. Let's really make it the organic discoverability strong, and let's see what happens. That would be my friendly
Thank you.
advice. Outstanding. We got time for maybe one more before we do podcast or speed dating. Anybody want to throw one out there? I'm getting stares. All right. Oh yeah, here we go. Heather, go for it. All right, last one. Heather.
Hi, Adam. Great
Hello,
to chat
hello.
with you. Hello. I am a very new podcaster and I'm new to you as well. So I am wondering about, as I learn about your 72-hour suggestion to put 5 pieces of material out. I didn't do that for my first 10 episodes because I'm still getting my feet wet. Is it worth going back and kind of doing especially since I only have 14 out so far, a recap or re-intro of podcasts? And I discovered I can have audio in the reels now. I didn't know I could do that. Is there merit in going back and kind of just putting a plug in for previous episodes?
Okay. So great question, Heather. Let me acknowledge something since you're a newer podcaster, this will be fitting for you. Back when I started my podcasting journey in 2015, if you would have told me then on July 16th of 2024, that somebody like you would be quoting a process that I named, it would have blown my mind. You know what I'm saying? Like Adam's 72-hour rule. And people do this all the time. So this tells you all the importance of naming your processes and your frameworks. People will bring up Adam's podcast monetization pyramid, the 2/3 content rule for expert positioning, the 72-hour rule, all these things that I've named and I talk about on the show. I talk about them on stage. It makes you stand out. There are lots of other people that have processes and things like that, but they're just like, this is the thing I do. They don't say this is the blah, blah, blah rule. So that's something that it was cool for me to hear you say that. Wanted to acknowledge that and, kind of acknowledge the importance of naming your processes. So let's answer the question. The 72-hour content rule is as follows. I like to challenge my listeners when they release a new episode to uniquely promote that with 5 unique assets in 72 hours. So that's a goal to build up to, not start there, build up to that. And the reason I want to do that, and the reason I put that challenge out there is a lot of us put out content and they're like, I'm too tired to promote it. All my energy is gone just from putting it out there. It's out there, Adam. It's just out there. And that's okay. That's better than not releasing. So when we release a new episode, our main job is to keep our current listeners listening. All that social media work, really, to me, that's not new listener discovery. That's current listeners listening. I got to keep current listeners listening. So that's really, really important. So with our 5 assets, we're going to uniquely promote that episode and give them little appetizers and go, hey, here's why you should listen to this. And here's another reason why you should listen to this. Here is an Instagram carousel that describes 5 top takeaways from this episode. Here is a IG reel that promotes one pain point you're going to solve. Here's a live stream where I'm going to dive a little bit deeper onto one avenue that I talked about on the show. Here's a newsletter where I give you a little bit something that you didn't hear in the podcast, but if you like this, you're going to love the episode. So attack from 5 different angles. I personally, for you, Heather, I mean, I would make it a priority to start building that structure going forward. And you can always go back and shout out, an episode and be like, hey, here's this week's great fan favorite episode from the first 10. If you need a catch up episode or something like that, and you can shout out take one day and shout out one of the older episodes. But I think just moving forward, let's promote the most recent episode, because if you're in the first 10 to 20, people find your show, they love it, they're going to listen to all of them. I mean, that's a given. They're just going to go, whoop, that's easy. I'm going to binge that. People find my show on episode 500 and be like, oh, I don't know about binging on this one. The real psychos will. Those are the people that I don't give my phone number to because they're peeking through my blinds at night. What's he doing in there? I've listened to all the episodes 4 times. But with 14 episodes or 20 episodes, people are going to find it and binge. So I think let's just start the habit. Let's really promote these new episodes and maybe start with 3 unique assets or 4, build up to that 5. But eventually when you can get there, and the 72 hours is, from speaking to people in the game, the content is considered new on Apple and Spotify within that 3-day window. And then it kind of becomes old content. If we get people to listen to it while it's new content, that gives us a little algorithmic boost. So that's why we kind of shoot for that 72-hour window. All right. Was that helpful, Heather? I did a lot of talking there.
That was great. Makes me
Okay.
think maybe, mentioning older episodes in my freebies or newsletters when it's relevant, but not worrying about rehashing.
Yeah.
Just move forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Establish the pattern. You're going to have 500 episodes like me someday. And like, you're going to have this, like, I didn't figure out the 72-hour rule, not with my health, even with my health show at all. So that was 3 years into the game. And, so we're talking hundreds of episodes before I figure this out. 14 episodes in, you're way ahead of me. So you're golden. You're good to go. All right, let's do this. Let's do podcaster speed dating. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you each 60 seconds. I want to know your name, the name of your show or podcasting brand. I want to know if you have guests, who you're looking for. If not, don't worry about it. And then if you are wanting to guest on other people's podcast, give us one real strong topic of like, if you want to speak on a show, here's what I can deliver. All right. I'd recommend not I can talk about everything and hear 45 different things. Like, what's the one thing, if you want to come on a show and just kill it, what do you do? What are you going to bring to the table? So, I will not start with any new people, so you guys can quit sweating, and we'll get a few veterans of the game in there first. Let's kick it off with Shannon Russell. All right. 1 minute each. Let's do it. Podcaster speed dating. Go ahead, Shannon.
Hi, guys. I'm Shannon Russell. I'm the host of the Second Act Success Career Podcast. I am a career transition coach. And so on the podcast, we talk about changing careers and starting a business. I am doing more solo episodes, thanks to Adam right now, but I do guest on a lot of podcasts, and I talk about leaving one career and starting over, whether it's midlife, later in life, anytime. I'm a former television producer, and now I own 3 businesses and have a podcast. So I can talk about all of that.
Yes. And Shannon has an awesome show. Everybody that I've connected her with that's been on our show, they're like, Shannon's such a good interviewer. Fun fact, Shannon used to work in TV with my very first girlfriend that I had ever. And we figured that out. And I was like, we played a trick on her. She's like, yeah, I started working with this coach. His name's Adam. He's like super awesome. And so she's telling this to my ex, my first girlfriend. And she's like, I think I know who that is. And so, yeah, we played a little trick on her. Shout out to Alyssa. How's it going? All right. If she's listening in, shout out. All right. Let's go to Heather Zeitzwolf. Go ahead and take the mic.
Thank you. So mine is Savvy Frugal Vegan. It will be coming out soon. But in the meantime, you can find me on YouTube, and I'm doing It's a Plant-Based Party. So I'm doing like a live thing because I've learned from Adam, you got to interact with people, right? So I'm doing that. And so I'm looking for guests that want to come on to share some of their vegan tips. And then if you are into veganism, I'd love to have you as a guest. And I'm looking for places where I can talk about how you can eat healthy on a budget. You don't have to break the bank, and how you can transfer your life into a vegan lifestyle. So that's me at Savvy Frugal Vegan.
All right. One of the most entertaining people you ever meet. Right there, Heather Z. Let's go to Raina Rokiki. Go for it.
Hey guys, Raina Rokiki here. The name of my podcast is called Podcast Growth Club, and I specialize in teaching you how to create a podcast that pops. So it's powerful, optimized, profitable, and streamlined. I am always looking to be on podcasts, of course. So if you have an entrepreneur podcast, a business one, marketing, any of those things, that would be great. And similar to Adam, I do live shows. So if you have a podcast and you want to be on and experience the magic of Raina Rokiki, reach out to me. I'd love to have you on the show and give you some strategies.
All right. Thanks, Raina. Let's go to Lorianne. Go ahead. Good to see you, Lorianne.
Well, hello, everybody. I am the host of the podcast Be in Demand, which is a public speaking for entrepreneurs, small business owners, and coaches, how to write and deliver amazing presentations to use as your best form of marketing. And I would love, if looking for guests to be on my speaker breakthrough sessions. And I will make sure that I put that link. So that is a live coaching. So I'll ask you a few questions. You'll come to the show, like how do I get started in the speaking world? how do I sell from the stage? Several questions like that. I'll guide you through that. And some of my best topics to speak on other people's podcasts would be more small business podcasts. And there are 20,000 speaking events that happened today, and there'll be another 20,000 tomorrow. That number is globally. And here in the US, that is 7,500 events happen every single day. And I can talk to your audience about how to find them.
I want to get booked on all of them. Can you get me booked on 7,500
Okay.
a day? Let's go. Now,
You want to talk to engineers? Maybe
I'll
not.
warn you all. Lorianne's podcast is super bingeable. So you've been warned. If you get on that thing and you are interested in public speaking, you're going to go download. You're going to be firing through that thing. It's really, really good. All right.
Oh, thank you.
Let's keep her going. Great job so far. Megan Shields, go ahead and go for it.
Hello, everybody. As you guys know, I don't have a regular podcast, but I have my podcast growth series, which is all about how to use Facebook ads to grow your podcast without spending a shit ton of money. And that is what I do in my business. So I do Facebook and Instagram advertising for podcasters. I pivoted my business entirely, thanks to Adam, last year, actually. Even though on paper, my clients still look very similar as before, which are a lot of coaches, course creators, and service providers working in the online space. I love to guest on podcasts. So if you have a podcast that is geared towards entrepreneurs, business owners, and podcasters, I would love to talk about Facebook advertising for Facebook and Instagram. I should say it's Meta, but I'm old now. So I refuse to call it Meta, but, talking about advertising, online business, marketing, entrepreneurship, all that good stuff. So this is my Instagram handle. Feel free to connect with me, and it's good to see you guys. Thanks, Adam.
All right. Hit her up on Instagram at Chimehouse Media, and check out episode 387 of my show, Podcasting Business School, if you want a full profile of Megan and Matt Shields and what they did for me and my show with Facebook and Instagram ads. 387 of Podcasting Business School. Check it out. All right. Let's go with Brenda Miller. Go ahead.
When you're multitasking, you're like, I know he's going to call on me right now. And he did. He did the call on me thing. Because I was just looking up Megan and I'm like, I want to book her. And I want to book her. First of all, I want to give a plug to Lorianne. Awesome host. We did, she interviewed me on hers. I'm interviewing her on mine. And we're doing a LinkedIn Live on July 30th. I'll drop the link in comments in case you want to watch it. So I specialize in LinkedIn, and I always tell people I'm your friend who, if you have LinkedIn questions, come and ask me. If you ever have any LinkedIn questions, I'm here to help you. I'd be a great guest for any podcast where your listeners or community are LinkedIn hesitant, they think they want to use it, but they don't really know how, or they're avoiding it because they think it's a job search site and it's not, or they feel like there's this whole world of B2B professionals and they just don't know how to tap into it because they're Instagram and they're Facebook users. As I mentioned earlier, I specialize in helping people, kind of across the spectrum of using LinkedIn. I train corporate employees on it. I work with solopreneurs to help them to build out their presence. And I also work with job seekers. And certainly interested in doing podcast interview exchanges if our audiences are a good overlap. And I'm pretty creative at thinking of approaches. So for example, one of my friends recently relaunched her website and she's reconfiguring where things are and I go, oh, that'd be a great podcast episode. Even if your business isn't marketing to my audience, talking about your process going through it, and then it will give you some visibility with it. So if you're interested, I'm looking at some guesting opportunities in the fall.
All right, Brenda, thank you very much. All right, let's get some new faces in here. Let's go to Heather B. Go ahead, Heather B.
All right. My name is Heather Boyd. I am the host of the Baby Sleep Connection podcast. It's a podcast for parents to go beyond wake windows and sleep schedules for those that are looking for alternatives to sleep training. Now, I love interviewing, which means I'm booked out with interviews, trying to follow that 2 to 3 rule, Adam, until the new year. But I also love to be a guest, and I can talk on sleep development and how it unfolds in the first 3 years, what it actually looks like, not what all the advice that you're getting ends up telling you it should look like. And I talk a lot about attachment as being a real basis for safe and secure sleep so that babies can sleep better and families can feel better too.
All right. Great to have you, Heather. Let's go to Jana F. Go ahead and take the mic, Jana.
Yeah, hi. I'm a fast typer and I cannot take notes quickly enough. So yeah, I'm Jana Fuchs. I have a podcast called She Illuminated, really focuses on strategies for personal growth and mindset, really targeting mostly women who are starting a new chapter. I am an adult psychotherapist turned, I call it soul coach. Um, and what else can I tell you? I am always looking for guests that make sense. I've had like quite the journey over this past year. When I started my podcast, it was just kind of like a fun passion project. And then I became a coach in addition to being a therapist. So I'm like juggling all these things and learning so much. Yeah, that's basically it.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here, Jana, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. All right. We got two more here. Let's go to Steve, and then we'll finish up with Teresa. Steve, go ahead. Steve, tell him the story real quick, man. Tell him the story.
Stories real quick is I just moved here 5 weeks ago, and 3 weeks ago I found out that Adam lived in the city next to me, and we never knew it.
Like 10 minutes away.
It's ridiculous. Lost opportunity, Adam. I'm telling you. I'm Steve Stewart. I don't have a podcast anymore. I retired mine in 2015, but I do edit for my peers. I help them launch shows as well, and I run the Podcast Editor Academy, where we help people to create businesses as editors doing the post-production side of podcasting. So I don't really look for guests, but for a podcast, but I am looking for people who can do presentations or provide some content inside of my Facebook group, which is the Podcast Editors Club, talking about post-production type topics. But as a guest, this is a recent topic that I can definitely talk about with authority. For the past almost 20 years, I've been living without credit cards, without debt, and yet I still, even without a traditional credit score, still was able to qualify for a huge honking mortgage, which I hate, but I have it. And so I've totally bucked the system, and I can tell everybody how you can do it if anybody's interested.
That's super cool. Steve, appreciate you being here, man. Steve is an OG in the podcasting world, so really cool to have you here, man. All right, Teresa, let's finish up strong.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I don't go by Teresa. I don't know why that popped up. I go by Terry.
Terry,
yes. I don't know where that Teresa came from. Every now and then it pops up where it shouldn't be, but I'm Terry and I'm host of Kick-Ass Boomers. And I'm an interview show. So I interview baby boomers who never want to retire. Some of them change what they were doing in the past. Others continue until they die. Like you see many actors and producers, they just keep working until they're 100 or they die, whatever. But many other people retire from their full-time job and they start something totally different, like writing books or designing jewelry or coaching other people. So I interview baby boomers all over the world, male and female, and they're all doing amazing things. We don't want to sit still. We know that we have to keep active. If we don't keep active and we sit on the couch, we're going to die. But if we can keep busy, we'll live on to maybe 90. I started when I was 70. I turned 74 on Saturday. And I'm just retiring from real estate sometime this month, and then it'll be strictly my podcast. I have 182 episodes. So I've been doing it for almost 4 years. I knew I wanted to transition from real estate to something else, and I picked podcasting. So I've been doing it for quite a while, but I'm not monetizing it or anything, but I'm going to put a lot more energy into it once I retire fully from real estate. And it's time. It's time to do that.
Yes, ma'am. Well, welcome to the full-time podcasting world, Terry. We're excited to have you. All right, Pod Pals, we did it. Just 5 minutes overtime. I can handle that. I appreciate you all for being here with me live. And I appreciate everybody that's listening in. If you want to be on the next August version of Pod Pals Zoom Party, head on over to the website, www.podcastingbusiness.school. And with that, I'm going to send you all out into the world, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. I will see you next time. Attention all podcast editors, podcast producers, podcast managers, and podcast coaches. I'm now taking applications for my next podcast growth coach certification cohort. If you're ready to learn my proven podcast growth system and add a podcast growth service to your offer platform, just use the link in the episode notes to get more info and apply to join the next certification group in September of 2024.